Happy Amerindian Heritage Month from the Board of Directors and Management and Staff of the National Communications Network.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another segment with ChildLinK Guyana, funded by the European Union. Over the past few months, we've been hosting various discussions surrounding issues relevant to women and children, and we're really continuing the conversation this week with a particular focus on child sexual abuse. And I'm really happy to have with us here today Bernard Lynch and Nikki Stadlon. It was really great to have you both here with us today. For those who might not be familiar with you, would you mind introducing yourself to the audience? How about you first, Aniki?
I would like to say thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Aniki Stone. I'm 22 years old and I attend Lenore Technical Institute.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bernard Lynch. I am old. 18 years old.
Thanks so much. So I know that when it comes to knowledge and CSA, both of you have been involved in conversations with ChildLinK and really building your knowledge in areas. So it's really great to have you here and to hear your perspectives to really share with other young persons. So we're going to be going through a few questions today, and it should be a pretty interesting discussion. So one of the first things that I want us to start with are some of the trends that we usually observe surrounding child sexual abuse. What are things that you might have noticed or things that might have been pointed out to you over the years regarding child sexual abuse? How about we start with you, Bert?
I didn't hear it. Please repeat.
Okay, so I was talking about some of the observed trends surrounding child sexual abuse. What are some of the things that you might have noticed over the years or beliefs that would have been told to you by people within the community, your family, social spaces?
I would say what I've been seeing for the past couple of years now is that I would say that how to put it, I basically say that
And Nikki, do you want to go ahead while Bernard gathers his thoughts and we can come back to him in a bit?
um yeah, no problem. I wouldn't mind. What I'm seeing for the past longest while is that the music that society will be following up these days. I think that is one way that encourage what is going on so far. And there are other points that contribute to what is happening. I would say.
Well, me, me that is or in contribution to sexual abuse are the groups in society. Well, as you all know, when you grow up or when you get older, you tend to join in different social groups. Some groups may count as a good group to join, while other groups, the members push you and pressure you to do stuffs or engage in sexual activities, but to you, you don't even know that you're actually being abused, you're being sexually abused in the process. For you, it's a confirmation you're fitting in, but in reality, you're actually being sexually abused and you do not even know.
Thanks for sharing. I'm just hearing a lot of feedback at the moment. Not sure where it's coming from. Okay, perfect. It stopped. But yeah, thank you both so much for sharing that. I think when it comes to child sexual abuse, it's definitely a multifaceted issue, and we often have lots of things to consider. I see we have Ryan Thomas with us now. Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Hi. Yeah, I got in. Sorry for being a little late.
No problem. So we're just talking about some of the observed trends surrounding child sexual abuse. Do you want to jump in here?
I don't think I have anything to add at the moment. I'm sure Nikki or Burnett would have added though.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we're gonna move to the next question, and this is surrounding victim blaming narratives. So, children are often not exempt from victim blaming. For instance, if it is that a child experiences sexual abuse, often you can hear, whether it's family members or persons within the community saying things like, oh, they shouldn't have been there, or they should have known better than to hang out with certain people. And these narratives really tends to shift the blame and prioritizes most often the abuser safety rather than the victim. But what do you think are some of the factors that drives this belief that children can be responsible for the abuse they experience?
Miss, can you please rephrase that question one more time so we can get it?
What do you think are some of the victim blaming narratives or beliefs out there that often frames children as being responsible for the abuse they experience?
Most of the time, person says that's how is the way they dress or the way they have carried themselves or they put themselves in that situation because they have, like, for instance, they say that's how they dress in a provocative way to turn on the predator abuser. But most of the times when you look at it, it's not even that. It usually has to do with the abuser, nothing to do with the victim. It just have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Because usually society says that how persons who are victims of the abuse put themselves in that situation. But we know that how the predators and the abusers are the ones who made it unsafe and made stuff like that happen to them.
Mhm. Thanks so much for that. Go ahead, you
Also,
guys jump in and continue the conversation.
yeah, for me, I can say that society has put it in a way that they say that the child has agency, freedom to choose. So because of that, people will say, "Oh, he or she know what they were doing. Oh, she know if she was with him, that she would have been abused, etc." And they tend to say because how they know what they were getting themselves into, that how they should take responsibilities for it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, children are children. Sometimes the predator abuser might tend to want to groom the child, like build a sense of trust, so the child wouldn't feel that there's a need to act or even be so up close. Well, they wouldn't see something is wrong with their behavior if abuse should happen.
Yeah, you make some very important points, Chief, of which children are children and they shouldn't have that burden of responsibility or this perception of agency when it comes to having or being forced into sexual activity because they need to be protected from things that harm them. And Nikki, do you have anything to add or should we move forward?
Nikki, I think your mic is muted.
And Nikki, you're very low.
I think he never realized his mic is muted.
Okay, I'm hearing him, but he's very low. So I'm not sure what's happening. Mhm.
Is
Thanks so much for sharing that, Aniki. I hope that I wasn't the only one that was hearing you, and others were also able to hear you, because it was pretty important to ensure that the type of support that children need after experiencing trauma is really early, because that early intervention really is necessary, and ensuring that they have that community and family support also. So thanks for sharing. And we're gonna go a bit to some of the myths that surrounds child sexual abuse. If you want to share things that you might have heard over the years, or there's a particular myth that might have stuck out to you, I really would want to hear like what those are. Like, what are some of the most popular myths that you've heard surrounding child sexual abuse?
Well, for me, one of the biggest myths I have heard since from childhood is that strangers can abuse you. So what society trying to properly tell them from small that you cannot be abused family members, or say that you can only be abused by somebody outside of the family, somebody you don't know. But in reality, you can abusers can be from your same home. It can be a family member, a close relative. It can even be a pastor, any random person. That yes, for me that's the biggest myth I have heard.
yeah, and to add to what Burnett said, another myth that I've heard, only women or girls can be sexually, because like usually in our parts of the world, Caribbean, we think that's how men supposed to be strong and be able to defend themselves. So being abused shows that how they're weak as a person or individual, and that is not something that could happen. It's something that they either let happen and they want to happen, and now they just want to like get some sort of reward out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very true. When it comes to child sexual abuse, we often do have, these set perceptions of what it is, who can be a victim and who can be an abuser. And it's often fixated in some really harmful beliefs that really does nothing to support survivors of violence. And so shifting away from these beliefs that, you know, men and boys can be abused, or persons are responsible for their own abuse, is very, very important when we're thinking about really shifting this entire culture around sexual violence and aggression and all of that. I think we've
Yeah.
touched briefly. Go ahead.
I think our next one is that like most persons who are abused, like they usually forget about it and just move on with life. Like after that abuse is just an event that took place to them. They're gone past or whatever. But it usually takes like a lot of time and a lot of help emotionally, physically, even mentally to get past that abuse. And it can even be shown in their behavior, etc.
Mhm. Yeah, that's very true. The short and long term effects that sexual assault can have on persons are really, really immense. So it never is just something that happens now and then you forget about it. Because even if you do try to suppress it, they do say trauma that is buried is not trauma that disappears. It just manifests itself in different ways over the years. So Anika, we were about to move on. Don't know if you want to share any final thoughts on some of the myths you might have heard over the years surrounding child sexual abuse.
Make it look like if he's stuck or have
Okay, he might be.
Wi-Fi problems.
Yeah, so we're living in quite an interesting time wherein we're still trying to figure out all these communication methods and making them work for us. So we will, of course, experience some challenges, but we will persist. So I know we just touched a bit on the different perceptions regarding male and female victims of abuse. So I really want us to delve into that point a bit more. What do you think are some differences in the way child sexual abuse against boys versus girls is treated within our society?
Well,
Yeah, go
to
ahead,
be
Bernard.
honest, to be honest, boys don't get treated fairly or seriously enough in society when they're abused. Because as everybody always say, a boy can never be abused, or if he's abused, he know better or so. They always shun a male if they were abused. While the female, when a female abused, they get comfort, they get counseling, people talk to them. While for a boy, people shun at them and laugh. And for me, that's a serious matter. Because because of that same matter, most boys are afraid to talk up, are afraid to express themselves. And because of that, they go down to the low lives in society and do the most. Sometimes they actually go into what happened to them. Sometimes a boy might be abused, didn't talk to nobody, and end up actually being an abuser just because he was afraid to express himself because he thinks society on him.
Yeah, and to add to what Bernard has said, is usually persons don't take what boys say against abuse seriously because, like, it's like if your younger sibling or your son comes home and tell you that, oh, a girl is bullying him, you would not take him seriously because in your head he's supposed to be physically stronger than her mentally, and he's not supposed to be able to be overpowered by such a person. So we usually take it very lightly, and boys then tend to not speak out on it because they assume it's just their fault as human and it's not something that should have transpired for them, and it just happened because of their inadequacies.
Yes, you both hit the nail right on the head when it comes to some of the differences. Girls are often more protected within the society when it comes to child sexual abuse. Even as things as simple as, this hyper protection within the home where girls are always needed to be inside while the boys are allowed to freely roam the streets, be out with their friends, and the parents not knowing where they are. But you see, people look at that and they don't recognize that it's those types of behaviors that also contribute towards this culture we have of not protecting boys and ensuring that they're safe from assault and all these various forms of abuse. And so it's really important that we really try to ensure that children, regardless of gender, are really supported. We keep an eye on them. We ensure we know who their friends are, what they're doing, what they're talking about, and just ensure that we also educate them because that's something that is often very lacking within our society. We don't have a lot of conversations with our young people about issues of sex, abuse, contraception, all these different interrelated things that can have long term impacts on their lives. And so I understand completely that some parents or guardians might find it uncomfortable conversations to have, but sometimes the uncomfortable conversations are needed to ensure that we adequately support and protect persons that are coming up. So thanks so much for sharing. Now, was there any other point that you wanted to add, or should we move on?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Same here.
All right. So I know we would have talked a bit about the impacts that can often be had on children who have experienced CSA. So, what do you think are some of the short and long term impacts of CSA and what that can have on a child?
Well, a major long term effect of child sexual abuse will be trauma. In other words, that image of what happened to the child will always be there. It will always haunt them. No
Yeah,
matter where a
what Bernard
child
said.
go, he will be unprotected. they all feel unprotected. They all feel like everybody's out there to get them.
Yeah, what Brian says actually is very true because like they have persons who now develop like certain behaviors because of trauma. They have been abused in some sort of way. Like for instance, a male, he may now start to sleep on his back because he feels very uncomfortable sleeping on his stomach because he thinks that it might happen again if he let his guard down. There are persons who might even like, I'm not saying that's how it's in everybody will act the same way, but usually they respond in some sort of subtle way. Persons might start like just fixing their clothes a lot because they're uncomfortable that someone might try to do it again and take off the little clothing they have.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, that was a long term effect. A short term effect can be depression. A child, be it boy or girl, will undergo depression, will feel like they're lost in the world. Because to them, when they needed, nobody was there for them. So they lock themselves away from society. They keep everything to themselves. It can
Mm-hmm.
go away, yes, but it will take counseling, and they will have to be open to somebody they can trust or build that bond with.
Mhm. Yeah, another thing is that how it may affect them physically because like a child is not built to accommodate certain stuff. A child should not be going through certain stuff. So if that should happen to them, affect their body physically, and it might even have long term medical hazards happening to them.
Yes, people in society don't know how bad child is eager to like if when they come home from school to just hear their mother or one of their friends just ask them, "Are you okay?" We do not know how much it will mean for a child for let their parent to them and ask them, "Are you okay? How was your day?" But
Mm-hmm.
a child, they need these kind of encouragement. The first place to build these bonds are at home. So when a child, if something happens to a child, he or she will feel comfortable to go to their parents because they trust their parents.
Yeah.
These things like
Mhm.
depression, guilt, nightmares are things a child was supposed to not go through at such an
Mm-hmm.
age. Because sometimes it goes away and sometimes it takes so much just to help them to feel a little better. Because no matter what happens, it don't actually go away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the real reality is that once they've had that the terrible experience, it kind of lives with them, and they really need support to heal from that. And that can take a lot of years for sure. And even then, there are bound to be some things that also come up, or behaviors that they need to change, or things that they need to address. And so it's really important that they have that support within their home, their family unit, their friendships. Go ahead, you were about to say something.
Yes,
It's okay.
as you
All right,
said
move on.
there. Yeah, as you said there. If they don't get the support, as you said, it takes years. Not like if somebody get abused today, a child get abused today, by the time next week they feel better. These
Mm-hmm.
things undergo very long time, and when if somebody has been abused, I should know because I have friends that were actually abused before, and how they are now, they are still in counseling. They still need help from people because to them they can't trust the world anymore. They lock themselves out from everybody. And the sad part is, they from depression, a child might even decide to harm themselves, want to cut themselves, want to feel pain. These things are, as I said before, these things are not the things a child is supposed to go through at such an age.
Yeah, that's
Completely
true.
agree. So, boys, we're wrapping up towards the end of our conversation today. But is there anything that I might not have asked you that you want to share, or a small point you want to highlight before we leave?
Well, for me, I would like to see to the viewers listening, especially the parents or adults, to reach out to children in society. Actually reach out and actually try your best to help them. And for the children, do not be afraid to tell somebody if something is happening to you. If somebody touches you wrong, do not be afraid to tell somebody. Find somebody you can trust, somebody you feel that you can talk to, because
Mhm.
these things aren't things to go through. If when it happens, it will haunt the individual.
Yeah, and also that's how child sexual abuse isn't like a one-time event. It can either be
Exactly.
happening like for a period of time over and over. So do not think it's a normal thing. It's not. It should not be. Actually, you should speak out one. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you both so much. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your perspectives. It's really great to hear you speak so passionately on these issues. And I do know that you've been doing your own education within your own spaces and friend groups, and that's incredibly important. So I hope you continue that. For those who are watching today, I hope that this has really shed light on the importance of having conversations with your children, ensuring that you are that support for them, and they're able to come to you with any negative experiences, or even just asking for information that can prepare them for the world. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to speak to you again soon. Take care.
Thank you. Mhm.